Good afternoon and welcome back from your lunch break, but whether here in person in Brussels or remotely as well. My name is Jan Chansky and I'm a senior policy editor with Politico. And what we're going to be doing at this session is trying to get a bit better idea of the corporate side of sustainability, how some of the things that we've been talking about in the earlier sessions actually boil down to companies having to make these kinds of sustainability decisions. Now, before we start, a few housekeeping rules. If you have questions, and that's highly encouraged, and I'll keep an eye on them when they do come in, please use the swap card platform. The instructions are on the event website for people online and on the chairs if you are here in person. And again, that does come through here on my tablet, and I'll just keep an eye out for those, try to encourage so that people feel a sense of taking part in the discussion. If you want to tweet, and that is also encouraged, the tweet the hashtag is #Politico Sustainability. So I'd like to welcome the guest we have today, Lana Popovic, the European Operations President for the Coca-Cola Company. Welcome, Lana.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
Hi. I wanted to start with potentially a tough sort of issue. A lot of what we've been talking about for the last 2 days have been issues of reuse, recycling, rethinking sort of an approach to consumerism, but sustainability has a whole nother dimension of supply chains, due diligence, issues around labor and human rights. The Commission is looking at bringing in a due diligence directive that will force companies to police their supply chains more. What's Coke's position on that? Is that something that you back?
Yeah, so the Coca-Cola Company's human rights policy and supplier guiding principles and principles for sustainable agriculture prohibit the use of any forms of forced labor. And so our human rights policy applies to all our operations, and it's contractually binding to all our suppliers. So we do support the harmonized mandatory human rights due diligence in the EU as proposed by the European Commission.
Does that include banning or blocking exports that are tied to that? I mean, there's an example in the States. The States, I guess, has a slightly more rigorous policy aimed at forced labor in China, in Xinjiang. Do you back that sort of approach, that you would actually block imports from such places?
Yes, and again, as I said, so we do support that approach, and what from my angle and from the company standpoint, and again, in Europe, I really have to say that although human rights is a very important topic, as you've mentioned, and it's something that we should continue to talk about, and not only talk about, but act upon, from European standpoint, we do see that environment as well as climate are taken into considerations, directly impacting the ways that we work, our people, our consumers, everyone in Europe.
So what specifically is Coke doing on some of these measures for recycling, water use, to human rights? I mean, can you list a few of the things that the kind of policies you guys are bringing into place?
Although we think that we do a lot, there is always a good answer and something we believe in, that we should always do more and more aggressively. I think that the best answer I can give today is by highlighting the announcement we've made this morning, which was about the efforts of our company to cut greenhouse gas emissions in Europe. And as some of you might heard, we have announced our 2040 net zero ambition and for our 40+ European markets. And that's something that is big for us. And it's not only the Coca-Cola Company, it's really working closely with our bottling partners. And our midterm goal is really to reduce our emissions by 2.5 million tons of CO2 annually by 2030. That's effectively 30% of reduction compared to 2015. And so to your question, what are the things we're doing? I could spend more time on naming things. For an example, increasing contact of recycled PET. We have a program in place called World Without Waste, where we aim to collect and recycle one bottle or a can for each one we sell by 2030 globally. We also have 3 bottling plants in Europe already, which are carbon neutral, and another 6 becoming carbon neutral by the end of 2030. And to also support that, we're quickly shifting to electric vehicles. And in a few years, our expectations and our ambition is that our offices will be all run on green electricity.
So, for example, to reach this 2040 target, right?
Yes.
So you're going to have to transform your pool of vehicles that you use to deliver into essentially electric trucks, right?
That's correct.
Okay. When it comes to the carbon footprint, how fast are you going to be declining to reach that 2040 level?
So there is, and that's common for the Coke company, which is we're making the announcements when we're having a plan to get there. And that's why I sort of reinforce that point that now the commitment is really on 2.5 million tons CO2 annually by 2030. Again, promises without concrete plans remain promises and commitments. We're focused on backing them up with concrete actions.
And what's your relationship with NGOs, with climate campaigners, with people who are relatively skeptical of company promises? Do you have any kind of program to work with outside groups to monitor your performance?
Yes, absolutely. This is too big of an issue that we can do it on our own. And in Europe, we consider ourselves being a European company. Maybe an interesting point to say is that we employ 50,000 people in more than 40 countries in Europe. And we further create almost 500,000, indirect jobs across Europe. So for us, Europe is absolutely critical, and we support the objectives of the Green Deal and the Circular Economy Action Plan. As you know, we've signed up to the voluntary EU Code of Conduct, and we have strengthened that pledge today with an ambition to be net zero by 2040. But also, we need to work with other partners to also ensure long-term stability, predictability, and a level playing field. So we want to contribute to a legislative process with our experience as a complex business to inform the most cost-efficient ways to drive solutions.
Some companies, especially the fossil fuel companies, are running into growing issues with NGOs. Seeing them, I mean, they're being accused of greenwashing, that sort of thing. Are you running into that same sort of issue with NGOs, or do you see the relation, or do they see the relationship with a company like yours differently than they would with a fossil fuel company?
I cannot comment on how we've seen from the NGOs. The only thing I can really comment on is that we see sustainability and working with partners as essential. This is our license to operate. And Coca-Cola has been around for more than 135 years, and our ambition is to really look forward to the next 10, 20, and beyond. And we cannot tackle all of the issues on our own, and therefore partnership is key. And I really sign the statement that I'm making today on behalf of not only leadership teams in Europe, but the whole organization, that sustainability is integrated in our business. And it's not something that we only talk about. When you look back for the last 15 years, by the way, this is the time when we worked on being water neutral globally. Now, how the NGOs see it, I can't comment, but I can say that if we would haven't been thinking about it 15 years ago, today we wouldn't be globally water neutral. And in Europe, we're much ahead. So last year, to give just as an example, we gave back 240% of water we've used. So it is simply part of our mindset. And again, we cannot do it alone. We take absolutely fair share of the responsibilities, but partnering with others, NGOs, and all of the other stakeholders is absolutely essential.
Just a specific question on an actual policy. Do you support deposit return schemes to get people to give back bottles? Some countries are bringing them in. It's fairly controversial.
Yes. So plastic waste is a very real problem. And we absolutely get that. And we understand why people are feeling frustrated and angry about it. And we don't want our packaging to end up as litter. And we know that we have a real responsibility to do all we can to get it back. So I really want to emphasize one thing. We want that plastic bottles back so that we can recycle them. And that's why we're using more and more recycled plastic in our bottles in Europe. And we're constantly buying and using more and more. And we will continue to accelerate that in the future. And so we do support properly funded deposit return schemes in Europe. And hence, we've made a global commitment as a company to collect that one bottle or a can that we sell by 2030. So a short answer to your question would be really yes. And we want to help increase recycling rates right across Europe. And we're working with governments as well as the NGOs to help us achieve that.
And what's your position on minimum recycled content in plastics that you've got to have? You know, there's talk of setting such standards.
Yes, so we are working closely with our bottling partners very clearly on the target setting, where we expect that we're going to have 50% of recycled PET in our packaging. So that's the target that we set ourselves. And again, it's a continuous process. And as long as we're aggressive about target setting and actions, I really have hope for a better future, which is the responsibility of us all.
Great. We have a question here from Dan Stevenson. Does the EU circular or the Commission's circular economy plan present more opportunities or obstacles for a company like yours?
So again, EU is important to us, and therefore we support the plan as the company. But as I've mentioned earlier, it is critical for us to ensure long-term stability and predictability, and again, level playing field.
Great. And we have a good question here from Hjordis Hildberg. When you talk about becoming carbon neutral or climate neutral, does that include carbon offsetting schemes, or is it an actual reduction in carbon output from your facilities?
So I'll come back to the details of that of the answer, but in my view, we are actually having a direct carbon offset from the facilities. And again, there's only something that much that the company can do. We are working as a system, and I don't know whether all of the audience is aware, but in Europe, there are two big partners we're working with. One is Coca-Cola Euro-Pacific Partners. The other one is Coca-Cola Hellenic Bottling Company. And as a system, the efforts are aligned. And as a system, we view our efforts to be measured, not only what the Coca-Cola Company does.
Great. So do you think that looking at all of these sustainability issues that we've talked about, is it a net positive for the company in terms of bottom line to be doing all these things, or is it actually a cost that you simply have to do because of shifting demands on a company like yours?
Yeah, there's an eternal debate that whether it's a cost or not. And I think that many businesses today, and ours included, are not really seeing sustainability as an investment and not a cost. And again, the company like ours, if you're in it for such a long run, and I would debate that 135 years is a long time, our past, and we are looking forward more to come, then profits need to be sustainable. We want to grow, but we will not grow at any cost, and we will not go for the short-term wins. And that's why for Coca-Cola, we want to ensure fairness in the value chain, and all actors have to thrive. And I just really want to re-emphasize the point that we do not believe in a race to the bottom. So we do see sustainability mindset and sustainability investments as part of our license to operate.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much for those answers and for giving us a bit of insight into a company that we see around us every day as to the kind of thinking that's happening a bit behind the scenes. So again, I'd like to thank Lana Popovic, European Operations President at the Coca-Cola Company, for taking part in our chat today. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The next session is a spotlight discussion. Does nuclear have a long-term future as a source of no-carbon energy? Certainly something that we're hearing a lot about across Europe in various political contexts. Central Europe, France, it has to do with the sustainable finance taxonomy as well that the EU is putting together. The moderator is one of our energy reporters, Aitor Hernandez Morales, and please stay seated, and he will be taking over the panel in a second. Thank you.